Hello and welcome to this week's episode. So, this week, always excited, as we know, I'm joined by Alexander Cork from Crimson Global Academy. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because, as parents, many of us grew up believing there was only one path when it came to education, traditional education that still has not really changed over the last 100 years. You went to school, you followed a curriculum, and hopefully found your way through it. Teachers are all doing the best they can. Teachers are just worth their weight in gold, but they are really struggling in this day and age trying to support kids in this generation. But for many families today, particularly those navigating school around anxiety, like neurodiversity, learning difficulties, or simply a child who's just not thriving in that traditional classroom, so parents are beginning to ask whether there might be another way. Like, what is there? Is there just homeschooling? What other way can we do this that's not just me doing the homeschooling? So Alexander is passionate about helping families explore what education can actually look like when the learning's built around the child rather than expecting every child to fit into the same system. So through his work with Crimson Global Academy, he's supported families from around the world who are looking for flexible and personalised approaches to education while still maintaining strong academic outcomes for their child. So today we're diving into alternative education, school anxiety, online learning, and what parents can do when they know something just isn't quite working for their child, but they just really aren't anywhere. They're not sure where to turn next. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. It is really opened my eyes in regards to an alternative to traditional schooling. We'd love to hear comments. Let me know your thoughts and speak to you next week. Morning, Alexander, and welcome to Parenting Collective.
Thanks very much, Donna. It's great to be here with you.
We were just getting to know each other a little bit, and the conversation was so good, I had to pause and we have to record it because this is what I want to share with the listeners, with all of your information around what you do. So if you could share with the listeners who you work with and what you do for families out there.
Yeah, so I'm head of admissions for a online school.
Yep.
The school's called Crimson Global Academy. The shorthand is CGA.
Mhm.
And I've been at the school for 3 or 4 years now. I've been at the wider umbrella company, which is Crimson Education, for 10 years. And at CGA, we were initially created to kind of like help, gifted kids and kids who wanted to go to top US and UK universities. Because that's on brand for Crimson Education. That's what they specialize in, US, UK admissions.
Right.
But the reality has been very different. The audience that has been coming to us over the last 3 or 4 years has been a lot of students who don't fit into traditional schooling models for various reasons. And some of them are like those push factors, they just don't have time for physical school anymore because they are an aspiring, ballet dancer, for example, and they're training ridiculous hours, or they're an athlete that trains ridiculous hours. Or, they're a student who travels with their family quite a lot. Like their, family moves for work and they have to move school every 5 minutes, or they just have the lifestyle of traveling quite a lot. And that's what they want to do. Yeah, whatever. So a lot of those reasons, like, I guess, are like, a lot of those families come to us and it's not necessarily an urgent request of like, hey, we need to move school ASAP. It's more like, oh, this is something we're thinking about and would like to do in future. But then on the other hand, you've got this whole pool of families that are termed now accidental homeschoolers. And I think it's a really great phrase, right? It's like
you don't
families
want to, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's just, and there's been quite a few stories about it. And I think like increasingly families are aware that this is a category that they themselves are fitting into. So some families come and say, oh, like, we are essentially accidental homeschoolers. We never had the intention of going down this route, but circumstances the way they are, we need to homeschool. And I guess like from our perspective, we are probably the most school-like homeschool option. We are actually a registered school in New Zealand. We are a registered school in the US, but in Australia, because of the state-based system and all the rest of it, we're not yet an Australian registered school, because I guess there is no such thing as Australian registered. You have to go state by state. It's a whole mess, but anyway.
Right.
So families use us as part all of their homeschool plan here in Australia, and then use the qualifications that their children earn in order to go to university. But like the school that we offer is like, it has the principal and the deputy principal, and has exams and assessments and house competitions and all. So it's very much like a private school.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Like in Australia, the concept of private online schooling, or even like online schooling for so long, has been, distance ed, farmer families type
Yeah.
of thing. That's been the dumb thing for distance education, government run programs, etc. But there was very few private schools that had a online offering. You look at the US and European markets, they are light years ahead of
Yeah.
Australia and New
As
Zealand
always.
in
Hmm.
terms of, in terms of this offering. They've got some fantastic schools. Some of the best schools in the US are online schools in terms of their results and everything else. So we're playing a bit of a catch-up game here in Australia, New Zealand, and really just trying to show families that, this type of school exists. And then also really trying to break the mold in terms of like how much flexibility the online space has, right? Because, we have this part-time kind of option where families can join for one or two subjects, or we have the full-time option, of course. We have one-to-one classes, we have group classes, we
Oh,
have,
wow.
students from 60 plus countries and all these types of things. So yes, we're a traditional school in many ways, but very different in many others. But certainly it's really been interesting to see a lot of these families who have been pushed out
Yeah.
of traditional schooling due to mental health,
Yeah.
bullying, medical
Yeah.
needs. I would
Absolutely.
say, a lot of the kids that we meet at the moment are neurodiverse and they
Yeah.
just are falling through the cracks and all these
Yep.
types of things. So it's nice to be able to offer those families a school that supports their child, supports the parent. A lot of the time
Yeah.
I say to parents, like, how's this journey been for you? And it's as hard
We're
for
just
them as it is for their
teachers.
kid.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's not
yeah,
our forte.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So they're looking for some support too, just as much as their kids
I
are.
love it.
And yeah, we're just trying to kind of, do the best we can and fill this gap that is obviously there because,
Oh, it's
we see a
huge.
lot of
Yeah.
parents. Yeah, we see a lot of parents who are like, I wish this was around when, my kid was starting school, or I wish
Oh,
this was around when I was at school, or like, we've
and
been
I didn't
looking for
even
you
know.
for ages.
I
Yeah.
just didn't know it existed. I really
No,
didn't.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like I was saying to you, is the trouble that we went through as a family was really traumatic
Mm.
because, our eldest was 21. So that's not that old, but you didn't talk about ADD. She was embarrassed about it,
No,
like it's not even
right.
that long ago. And that journey, felt like very solo on that. And look, on the long run, it's worked out okay. They went to private schooling and it's a great school, but it's not equipped for neurodiverse kiddos. And we could
No,
talk about stats, but I don't even know what the statistics are now. But just in my little Donna world, my 21-year-old who didn't want to talk about ADD, no one talked about it. I was going to share it with anyone. To now, it's really talked about, and I think it's a good thing.
mm,
It can be a negative thing, but the neurodiverse or neurospicy kiddos, as we talk about, with all these different levels, are not, but like you said, square peg in a round hole. They are spectacular. Their brains are spectacular. They're highly intelligent, but you get them to go to school and read a book about, I don't know, mountains. They're not interested in it. They're not going to read that book. So people don't
yeah.
understand neurodiverse brains. They can do lots of things at once and they can hyper focus, but they need to be able to have that perfect support for their brain to learn, and they can be anything. So it sounds like this academy would very much be exactly what these kids might need.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of the like. I mean, look, I'm not going to say we're silver bullet for every single
Definitely not.
family and every single
Definitely
kid,
not.
but
No.
I think it's really important to see that there are a lot of schools that have created these support programs outside of their traditional classroom. So you got your traditional classroom with 25, 26 kids or whatever it is, and then outside of that, you got your learning support, your academic enrichment programs, selective classes, streaming classes, all these
That's
types
right.
of
Yeah.
things which are really trying to, how do you cater to students who are either one or two standard deviations above or one or two
Yes,
standard deviations
totally.
below the,
Yeah.
the norm,
Yeah.
or students who just learn in different ways or who
Yeah.
need different conditions to learn. And it's like schools are trying to, yeah, create this wider net for these kids. And I will say some schools do it super well and some
Yeah.
kids, are really supported by that wider net, and that's fine. But then I think sometimes like a school needs to know when they are not the best fit. I'll give you
Mm.
an example. I'll give you an example. There was a family I spoke to just a week ago, incredibly anxious kid, like general anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, just really, really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And the school said, hey, we're going to have our counselor meet you at the front gate and we'll try and take a couple of steps into the school. And if we get into the front doors of the school, amazing. We've had a win for that day. But if, you get to the front gates and you want to run back home, that's fine. And the parents were going through this with their kid for over like 3 or 4 weeks. Front
Yeah.
gate, couple steps, run back. Front gate, couple steps. And I would have said, as a parent, but certainly as an educator, hey, have you thought about homeschooling for a while?
I
Have you
know.
thought about,
Yeah. I don't think people I just really don't think people know that something like this exists as established as it
possibly.
is. I really, truly, I know you're in it and you've been in it for 4 years and you're like, oh my goodness, but I've never heard.
I think
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just don't know that there is I think a lot of people still associate homeschooling in Australia with parent-led teaching.
Absolutely. That's 100%
Yeah,
absolutely what I would
yeah,
think. And anyone I speak
yeah,
to, again, I work with lots of parents. That's the biggest fear is like, even for us when we went through everything, definitely we're looking at different options, Montessori and different schools or whatever. But there was not an option for me to be able to teach my child, even if it was led.
yeah,
Like, I just don't think that dynamic in my family would have been successful.
yeah. Exactly,
Like, to
exactly.
leave it up to the parent, I think, again, everybody I'm speaking to wouldn't know something like this exists. So it just needs to be
Yeah,
known, really.
I agree. I think the states in Australia kind of make the homeschool process deliberately difficult because,
Yeah,
they would prefer students to stay in a school environment. But I think that's such a not a good fit for a lot of kids.
it's
They
not.
would prefer to be, homeschooled. They are often disruptive to the kids who are at school.
Yeah,
We see some students who have some behavioral issues and
yeah,
everything and who just are not enjoying school and are really acting out. And they just need to have a safer environment at home for a little
yeah,
while.
yeah,
I see a lot of questions on the Homeschool Australia page of parents being like, I'm new to homeschooling. What do I do? Like,
yeah,
I've got
totally.
no idea where to
Got no
start. But,
idea.
and yeah, and it's interesting, as well, the amount of queries that we receive that are either parent led or student led.
Yeah,
And
right.
I see a lot of the queries increasingly being student led,
Like,
which
help
is
me.
like, right, right.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
or the student saying to their mum or dad,
Mm,
I don't want to go to school anymore. I want to online school or I want to homeschool. I
yeah,
want to do distance ed or I just don't want to go to school anymore. And I was talking to my mum and my mum said, school refusal,
yeah,
it's become such a thing. And
yeah.
that's how my mum talks a little bit.
Oh, yes, yes.
Um, of course, sorry to all the mums out there, but it's that idea that students know that school refusal is a thing now.
Oh,
People are like, why?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why is school refusal increasing so much? Well, I'll tell you why, because kids are aware that that's an option for them now,
100%. We
right?
didn't know.
They don't
Look,
have to go to school.
they don't. And you know what? The
Mm.
oldies, look, I'm old anyway, but I'm in it. I'm like I keep saying, working with parents for the last 10 years. So I'm evolving with them, even though my kids have got bigger. And I can just compare, 5, 6 years ago, then my own childhood, how easy it was to parent. There was a phone on the
Mm.
wall,
Mm.
no distractions, news at 6 o'clock at night on TV, fat cat when you went to bed. So we didn't know any different. So we had to and were made to do what our parents tell us to, which is lovely,
Yeah,
lucky them. But our children these days are just know too much, and it has destroyed so many things. But it can also be a really big benefit to give them, okay, and
it
listen
can
a
be.
bit more. Yeah, like listen,
It
okay,
can be.
what did
It
they
can
say?
be.
Yeah, because
Yeah, yeah,
look, that's the biggest thing because I'm a conscious parenting coach as well, and that just means actually being aware. It's not anything airy fairy,
totally.
gentle. It's like being aware and conscious. What's my 14-year-old saying? Okay, you're not going to be permissive and like, oh, poor child, you don't need to go to school. Okay, these are the options. What are we going to look at? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Rather than the old school of us was like, do it, just do it,
Yes.
and stop whinging
Yeah,
about it,
exactly.
and just do it.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah, kids just these days know too much in a good way.
Definitely in a good way. In a good way, I would say. For the kids who come to us, it's definitely in a good thing. The students know
100%.
that the environment that they've got at school is no longer going to work for them.
No,
They're so, and I always say to parents who come to us and they have this accidental homeschooling type thing and they feel you can feel the sense of defeat that they've got in
oh,
their
100%.
voice
Because everyone
because
judges.
everyone
Everyone
judges.
judges. And you know
And
what?
and
It happens all the time. To go out
yeah,
on a limb, which isn't. It sounds like, again, the academy. It's amazing, but and what people need, but it's not. It's not run of the mill.
not
So it's
widely
like,
accepted yet. Yeah, not widely accepted yet. But like it is, I say to parents, I can hear like the tone of your voice. You feel like you failed your kid. But I'm going to, I try and lift parents up in that conversation
totally.
and say, hey, the fact that you're here talking to me when you never thought that you'd probably be talking to someone
Yep.
like me in an online school type of thing shows that you're listening to your kid,
Yeah.
that you're trying to do the best by them.
Absolutely.
The worst thing you can do, and this is to all the listeners out there, is if your kid is consistently not enjoying school and is like not having a good experience there, not getting academic progress out of that school, whatever, is to continue to drop them off at the front gates and hoping
Oh,
for things to change.
it's not going to. And the
Yeah,
thing is,
hope is not a
yeah,
strategy. Hope
I
is not a
know. I wish
strategy.
it
It's not a
was.
phase. Yeah, I know. And some
I
parents are
wish
like,
it
maybe
was.
it's just a phase. Maybe, and I get it because homeschooling is not just a change for the child, it's a change for the
Yeah.
parents too.
Yeah.
It might mean someone has to, reduce their days in office, or it might
Right.
mean, constant supervision at home, or it
That's scary.
opened this Pandora's box of how do I even apply for homeschooling, which I totally get. It's a
Yeah.
scary thing.
Mm.
But to continue to send your kid to the front gates of these schools that they're not enjoying,
No.
it's not going to improve anytime
Yeah.
soon. I haven't seen a student
And
or a
all of a
family
sudden
come
go,
and
no,
say,
absolutely not.
yeah,
And never.
after dropping them off
No.
for another 3 months, things miraculously improve. No,
No.
like it's, very, very rare, very, very
Oh,
rare
it's
that
very
that
rare.
kind of
And
thing
the
happens.
thing is, I don't always want to go into the negative, but I do like sharing lived experience. So that's what I talk about in my
Mm,
stories in my podcast, is living it with children that had anxiety, and the eldest being severely depressed, suicidal, all of those things. And I'm
mm,
not saying that your child's going to, whoever's listening, is that's going to happen to. But when you get sucker punched that the child will not go to school and you're trying to keep your child alive, like that's not dramatic. But if you take it back quite a bit of like anxiety and depression, you know, what's the most important thing? What is the most important thing? That your child is okay and coping. So it doesn't mean they have to be
mm.
forced to go to school all the time. There's other options, and yes, you might have to change your desk work and all of that sort of stuff, but that's our role as parents.
Yeah,
We have to keep
yeah,
adjusting. We have to be more conscious and aware to hopefully get our kids educated, which now knowing that you exist, that would obviously make it a lot easier for parents.
yeah. Well, I hope
Guided,
so.
but
I hope so. It's never easy education, and it's
no.
never easy when you've got a kid who is in that area where they can't go to school anymore, and
Yeah.
that's why they're looking for an alternative like this.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I can share with you a really cool success story that I absolutely love.
I love that.
So this is like one of those parents who, came to us in this kind of circumstance. Her daughter was probably one of the more challenging behavioral cases I've seen at CGA. We don't tend to have a super high percentage of like really tough behavioral cases, but
No.
she was in that situation. And she worked with our private teachers, and we kind of have this thing where we can do incremental enrollment, where we start out with one or two subjects, see how it works, like just see how it goes. Can she adjust? Is she open to it? Right. And it worked. And we added a few more and a few more. And then she ended up pretty much doing like a quasi full-time type private, lessons. It wasn't like a full school day. She was working on her mental health as well. Her mum was
Right.
actually a psychologist as well,
Wow.
which was an interesting combination, I guess.
Yeah.
And look, the overall intention at the time was like, let's just get her through the next 3 months and 6 months
100%.
and 9 months,
Absolutely.
right? Like it wasn't like, what are her university goals or anything?
No
Like that. That was
way.
not,
No.
yeah, it wasn't part of the conversation. We are just kind of like just trying to get her back on track. Anyway, about 2.5 years after her first CGA enrollment, the mum emailed in October of last year and said, Alex, our awesome news, we're going back to physical school. Because that was always the goal. That was
Wow.
always the goal for her to get to a point where she felt ready to go back to a physical
Amazing.
school.
Amazing.
And I was so happy. I was like, gosh, to the mum, I was celebrating so much for her and
Yeah.
for her kid as well. She's still actually in part-time enrolled with us. She's still
Great.
doing some
Give
maths
support.
classes with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's that kind of like just giving the kids space.
Yes.
I often feel like with these kids who do have, mental health challenges, behavioral challenges, and, whatnot, and a lot of those challenges are exacerbated at school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we often see school as the place where students need to work on those skills. Oh,
Yeah.
you're anxious? Oh, go to school, be surrounded by your friends, and it will be better. And I'm like,
Desensitized. Yeah.
yeah. I was like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't get that. Yeah, I
Yes.
really don't get that thinking. Or like, you've got behavioral challenges. Oh, go to school. I'm
Yeah.
sure like the environment of, these hormones flying around
Oh,
everywhere,
all of
like
that as well.
that won't trigger that at all, will it?
No,
I'm like,
no,
why are
right.
we yeah, why
Same
are we
cycle, same
forcing these
yeah.
yeah, like forcing I always see like kids who have like a lot of accidental homeschoolers, I guess, have these like underdeveloped skills in, working with people and whatnot. And people feel like, well, if I just continue sending them to school, those skills will develop. But
Mm.
I often think like it's really showing the gulf between where their kid is at and where other kids are at. And their
Yeah.
kid is even more,
Oh,
likely
100%.
to yeah, to kind of be
You feel different.
hyper aware that this
Mm.
is not a space for them,
No.
and be like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm done. And so I see families like that kid that I was just mentioning, where taking them out of school, working on the underlying issues, whether it be behavioral or
Right.
learning needs, or whatever it might be, then kind of saying, all right, like let's make the goal to go back to school one day when you're
Yeah.
ready. I mean,
Yeah.
some kids make that goal and never go back. They just stay with us
Yeah.
until graduation, and that's awesome. We're
Yeah.
happy to have them because they find that this is an environment that actually works better for them. But
Yeah.
anyway, the kids who do want to go back, like it's great that they have that space and time to work. I was talking to a
Absolutely.
professor, professor from QUT, like Rebecca English. She does a lot of research in homeschooling, and she calls it like a circuit breaker. This kind of
Oh, yeah.
like you're on this
Insect.
treadmill at school, trying to keep up, and you
Masking,
just need
masking.
to exactly. And you just need to step back. And it's not for a week, it's not for a fortnight, it is for like 6 months, maybe a year, maybe two.
Yep.
And like
Oh,
that's just
totally.
maybe what your kid needs.
Yeah. And the thing is, when our children are not cookie cutter, and you watch
Mm,
everybody else's kids just do it, and then the whole family doesn't feel like we can fit, and not in a real dramatic way, just these slight things. And so a little bit of ADD, a little bit of anxiety, and then like
mm,
the masking, and then the hormones. But when I talk about this and on reflection, I was so frightened, and my husband's not a scared kind of person, but it comes from fear of like, what the hell? What do you mean you're not going to school? Or it's just that bigger picture of like what's going to happen. But, when I look at the girls and going to high school and the troubles that they had for a couple of years, they missed so much school, but
mm.
they were able to, like I said, a bit of a circuit breaker at home and then do a bit of work here. And they're both going to uni in a different way, not the ATAR way. But what I'm saying to that is people and kids do not have to go to physical schools to be able to get what they want these days. It's just in
No,
regards to education. And these kids work often better in that calm, safe space at home, and being obviously
yeah.
from high education,
Y- Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And whether they for a school like us, a lot of families worry about like the social side. Actually, I wrote a blog recently on our page called "But what about the social side?"
Yeah,
And because it's such a common question that we get,
totally.
and it's that kind of stepping away from school and disconnecting from the social element of school can be the best thing for kids.
100%.
There was a student that we've got in Queensland. She was seeing an educational psychologist. She has a slight learning needs and everything. Lovely kid though, and she's at a pretty solid girls' school there in Brisbane, but she has some hearing loss,
Yeah, right.
and she was struggling in class because she couldn't quite hear everything that
Yeah,
was going on in class, obviously. And the mum looked into CGA, was nervous because her educational psychologist was like, do not do online schooling. It is the worst
right.
thing for your kid. It will absolutely like devastate her social life and everything else. And the mum was like, oh, a bit terrified. She was like, well,
Right.
this school is not really working out for us either.
Yeah.
So this
What do we do?
CGA option, sounds interesting. So she hedged her bets. She paid our fees and she paid the school
Wow.
fees as
Wow.
well.
And just gave
Not
it a
saying
crack.
everyone's going to be able to do
No,
that,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
like it held her spot. She was so nervous that CGA would not work that she held her kid's spot for a term just to see if, they needed to go back. Her daughter's now in her second year of CGA, almost third, I think. And within a term of being at CGA, they fired the educational psychologist. They're
Yeah.
like, clearly, yeah, it's when we
Don't
talk about
know.
like, it's not the done.
That's
They
no,
don't know. They don't know.
they
It's
don't
not,
know.
because online schooling, like I think a lot of people think online schooling, COVID learning.
It's not the
It's
same.
the online school space has come so far.
Yeah.
That was like, you can kind of look at, COVID being a blessing to the online school space in just
Yeah.
how much research of what not to do kind of came
Totally.
out of that
It
time
didn't work.
period.
Totally,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Like, a whole bunch of kids sitting in a Zoom room with no cameras on and whatnot, and the
Yeah.
teacher just being like, "Is anybody there?" and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So
Grab your
that's
book.
that's what
Yeah.
not to do. Yeah. So there's still this kind of ingrained view, but like there are certainly some students who are really wanting to give this a go, would really thrive in an online space.
100%. Oh,
And it's
absolutely.
just a matter of trying it out and,
Yeah.
finding that solution and then,
Sounds amazing.
going from there.
And
Might go back to a physical school,
oh,
might never
totally.
again.
And you have hope, don't you? And when
Hmm.
we were talking about the social aspect, and again, us going through things that were different, obviously, than what we're talking about, but definitely not being able to go to school. Um, the girls did things they loved. Like one of the girls did
Yeah.
softball, and so she'd be so down and depressed and really finding it hard to do much, but she'd go to the softball on Saturday. So what I'd say is, what it gives is the circuit breaker. And what does your child like? Do they like to horse ride? Do they like to do some art? Do
Yes.
they like going to church?
Yes.
I don't know, but do you
We've
know
got a
what?
lot of equestrian kids.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So they
Yeah.
don't have to go to school for social. Social kid for some of the kids, and one of our kids was really bullied, and it was really a big
Yeah.
part of the depression. So yeah, gosh, there's so many things we could talk about.
Girls are tough.
Oh yeah.
Girls are tough.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are.
girls are,
Yeah.
yeah. I
They're
see a
also
lot of
beautiful.
bullying cases.
Totally. So many
13
so
to
much work.
15, like early high school
Nasty.
girls, year 7 to 10, they've got long memories. They bully very differently to the boys. Like
They
boys, I get a couple of boys coming in and saying, "Oh, I've been bullied," like, maybe beaten up or something
I was
like
going to
that. And
say
it's
they just might
traumatic. I'm
punch
not
on, but yeah, girls emotionally bully.
but girls are emotionally bully over like such a long time frame. Like, that whole thing of like women never forget. I think it's kind of true. It must be.
Yeah,
Because like I speak to girls who say, they start term one. We get a lot of girls coming to us due to bullying at the start of the school year
right.
because they had hoped that what had happened in term 4 last year had kind of been forgotten. They had bad blood with a couple of kids. They were being
Yeah.
ostracized or isolated by a couple of kids, and they really hoped that had ended. Term 1 next year rolls around, the exact thing happens again. It picks up from where it left off, and
Oh,
they're
I
like, "We
know.
can't do this for another school year. We
No.
can't." So yeah, we've got a lot of kids who leave. Yeah, so the social side, I find it's funny because like a lot of kids leave their school because of the social side, and they're looking for a different option. And then yeah, you're right. Like a lot of our kids, I say, if you're going to be full time in an online school, join a local extracurricular, join a local club of
20.
sports,
Yeah.
swimming, yeah, equestrian clubs. We've got kids who have done scouts, and
Yeah.
we've got students from 60 countries, and we do international camps, and we do local camps and
Oh, it's so
meetups and all these types
amazing.
of things. It is like,
It would have been
I,
amazing for our family. That's why I was so interested to
right.
get you on, because I'm like, it's just a lost, crazy world for us parents, unless,
Yeah.
for you guys to reach out to be guests, which is great because I'm like, oh my gosh, it now opens my eyes to this and I can share and talk about it. So,
Right.
I talk to so many parents now. I can be, if they're having troubles, it's like, well, look into this. Sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, people say, would you put your boy, because I've got a little toddler running around, would you put him into a CGA? And, I've got a local primary school a stone's throw away.
Yeah.
So all going well, he goes there and
100%.
whatnot. But if we decide to travel for a year, I am taking him out of that school and we're going to do maths, English, and science and travel the world. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
love it.
Yeah, right. Or then there's the option of like if he's getting bullied or if he's really not enjoying it or
Yeah,
whatever. Yep, like 100% take him
totally.
out. Like I'm not going to. I think there's a lot of parents who put their kid into a private school in particular, like top private schools, and they say, "Oh, like success, we're done. We've
No,
done our parenting bit. We got our kid into our dream school."
no,
And then it quickly
work like
becomes
that.
their child's nightmare.
Yep.
And then they don't adjust. They don't,
No,
like one thing Rebecca English said was like, make sure you're picking the school that suits the child in front of you,
100%. And
right?
this is
The
what we do though
child that
with
is in
parent. Yeah.
front of you. Yeah. The
So,
child that's in front of you this year, not,
yes.
not the child, because the kid who was in front of you in year 7, bubbly and loving school and loving life and everything. Awesome. That's great. Send them to that school. But I was talking to a mum recently. Poor thing. She was crying on the phone, remembering what school was used to be like for her daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
How she used to be a state swimmer. She
I
used to be a
know.
top gymnast. She used to be
Yep.
a great academic and everything. And now she's a shut-in. She
Yep.
doesn't come out of her room.
I
And
know.
I applaud those families who say, hey, like whatever we've been doing, that's the past.
Yeah.
What is our future?
Yeah. And
Whatever our future is,
it's
it's
hard to
not going to
pivot.
be, yeah.
No, it's hard to pivot for some people.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
hard.
It's so hard to pivot. It's so hard. I get it, but like,
It's worth it
it,
though.
it is really, it's really hard to maintain a status quo that's obviously not working. So
It's not working.
yeah,
And like,
for any
yeah.
families, for any families out there struggling through this whole, school refusal or finding the right environment or anything, if you've got the space, if you've got the opportunity, try online,
Oh,
like with
100%.
teacher support.
Yeah.
There's us, but of course there's other options as well.
We're not
We're
talking
probably the
about them
most.
though. We're only talking about you today.
But even like
We're
I
not
say
talking
to
about
parents,
anybody else.
that's true. But I do say to parents, like, if I think they're a better fit elsewhere, I'll let them
Oh,
know.
totally. Yeah.
But in the private online school space, there's pretty much CGA and not much else in Australia
Okay.
at the
Oh,
moment.
this
So
level too,
we're
yeah.
yeah. We're really happy to kind of see where families can work out a plan, and
Oh,
so that
that's
incremental enrollment is a good option as well. So
love it.
yeah, really happy to work with some families and help some students to find their feet again and
Love it. Yeah, really support.
make progress. And then we have those gifted kids and all those things. That's a different
Yes.
podcast. So
Yeah, and that is a different podcast, and this is
yeah.
why, like I said, I didn't have that. And if I had the gifted kids,
Mm.
then maybe I would have talked about that. But you do, like, this is just a small little facet of what your academy does, and that's why I was so interested in
Yeah,
it.
so
Because
I wouldn't say it's
so
small anymore.
no, not small. No, oh, well, that's right. But there's it sounds like the academy is very diverse. It's not about just what we're talking
Huge.
about with anxiety and school refusal.
Yeah.
That's what we're focusing on today. But yeah, like it sounds amazing. So just to finish up then, because obviously it was UK, US started or based, sounds like. I'm not sure, I might be wrong with that.
Oh no, originally a Kiwi school. So our
Kiwi
principal
school.
and everything's Kiwi based.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
yep.
So then obviously we'll give everything in the show notes to contact you.
Sure.
But can people reach out to you directly to see if they can have a conversation? Like if someone was
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
see my family, where should they
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously cga.school is our website. We've got all these videos on YouTube as well, which are really interesting to see our students and families. My email is a.cork@cga.school, CORK, just like the cork you pull out of a bottle.
I'll put that in my notes.
But yeah, really happy to put some, plans together for families, answer some basic questions. Like some families say, do I need to contact you only when I want to enroll, or can I just ask for info? I'm like, it's fine. Just ask for info, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, really happy to chat and see what we can do.
Oh, I love it. Well, thanks for a fantastic conversation. And I hope someone hears this that is, thinking that they might need to, like you said, accidental homeschooling. I love that. It's like accidental co-sleeping, because I'm a sleep specialist as well. And, people like,
yeah, right.
I want to co-sleep, and now I've got this toddler in my bed. So we're all doing the best we can. When it comes to parenting, it's a crazy busy world. Our kids are absolutely really highly informed, which is a good and a not so good thing sometimes. But if your child's coming to you and they're, talking about the possibility of homeschooling, this is definitely sounds like an amazing option.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that you just say, well, no, you've only got 3 years of school to go. Just put your nose to the grindstone and deal with it. Yeah. Like That is such, that line of thinking may have worked 30, 40 years ago when students weren't as aware of the world around them.
Totally.
But you're right, like they're so hyper
Yes.
aware now that they know that school refusal's a thing and that online school is a thing. And so they
Yeah.
say, well, actually, no, I don't want to do this anymore. That's what I want to do. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it's a really interesting time in space for parents and students navigating education, just the
Sure is.
amount of options and alternatives that they have.
It sure is. Thanks, Alex. And I'll, like I said, put all the notes in the show notes, everything in the show notes for people to contact you. But have a great day.
Thanks so much, Donna.
Thanks, Alex. Bye. So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave me a rating and review. I love reading all of your messages, so shoot me a DM over on Instagram. It is parentingcollective.au. I also offer a free 15-minute no obligation phone chat. If you'd like to book one, head over to my website www.parentingcollective.com.au and request one there. So try to remember to be kind to yourself and always know you're doing the best you can every day, no matter what your day is looking like. Until next time, much love.